because there are concerns that Eskom's tariff hikes will hit consumers hard amid a rise in the cost of living. An 18.6% or 65% increase came into effect on the 1st of April for those who are directly supplied by the utility. Municipal customers will start paying more for electricity come the 1st of June. However, government has also announced solar incentives in order to help residents and businesses. Let's get you a sense of how this is likely to affect Eskom's financials. Bring in energy analyst Chris Yelland, who joins us via our telephone line today. Chris, it's lovely to have you with us. Thanks for making time this Monday morning. I mean, the obvious question here, as South Africans buckle under the pressure of the financial heat or burden, is whether or not you reckon this will go far enough in improving Eskom's financials.
Yeah, look, it is an enormous increase, and you will notice next year that it will have a significant impact by reducing their losses, in the next financial year. No question about that. When you suddenly have an increase of 18-point-something% without doing any extra work, it's going to reflect directly on the bottom line. So yes, it will be helpful, but of course it doesn't solve the underlying problems, and we've seen this before. There can be big price increases. It helps in the short term. But unless you deal with underlying issues, the problems don't go away.
Yeah, there's also been a notice in the government gazette essentially outlining that Eskom may very well be exempt from the regulations of the PFMA. I mean, for a lot of people who are going to see this, the first thing that comes to mind is how much money will be lost because of this particular exemption, despite the reprieve we're expecting from these tariffs.
Look, there won't be money lost. I don't think there'll be money lost as a result of this intervention. But they will not be telling us what they're losing as a result of this intervention. In other words, this intervention exempts Eskom from declaring in its annual financial statements irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So it no longer has to report this in its annual financial statements. It really is a baffling move, and I'm still waiting to hear from the CEO of Eskom as to what is the actual reasoning behind this,
right,
and why is it only being done now after all these years they've had this, it has been reported, and why is it only being limited to the next 3 years? In other words, if there was a sound and sensible reason for this, and they would, and it was just a sort of an accounting matter that was being sorted out, why then is it only limited to the next 3 years? It seems very strange, and we don't have all the answers yet, and it's very disturbing that they will no longer be reporting these things in their annual financial statements.
Yeah, and in the absence of any kind of explanation, of course, people will get into conjecture and speculation. It appears, at least on the face of it, that Eskom may be trying to hide something.
Well, that's the point. If there are good reasons for it, then all I can say is this is the most inept kind of communication from National Treasury that I've ever seen. It must create all kinds of questions in the minds of the public, but even more, it must raise questions in the eyes of bondholders and investors that something is being hidden. That may be that nothing is being hidden, but it is being communicated so ineptly that it's shocking.
Yeah. Speaking of suspicions, in the Sunday Times yesterday, Herman Mashaba wrote an opinion piece. He, of course, is the leader of Action SA, questioning the kind of reprieve we've experienced in load shedding in the past couple of weeks, especially after Andre de Ruyter left. Look, again, there may be nothing untoward. It may be just a coincidence that Andre leaves and sabotage appears to be lessened. Are you as suspicious?
Look, I'm very loath to believe in conspiracy theories because conspiracies are very complex to engineer, to organize, and I'm not sure that Eskom has the competence to actually engineer those kind of conspiracies. Nevertheless, and really I said also publicly that we have good weeks and we have bad weeks. And we have very good weeks and we have very bad weeks. And it's quite volatile, the energy availability factor. The energy availability factor is a metric that is measured over a period of time. You cannot simply state the energy availability factor at this instant in time and expect it to be meaningful, because you can have a good energy availability factor this hour, and the next hour, significant numbers of generators can just randomly trip out, and suddenly the energy availability factor is very bad. So you need to look at the energy availability factor as an average over a period of time, whether that time is 1 week, which is very short, or 1 month, which is more realistic, or as Eskom reports in the annual financial statements, they report it over a 1-year period. Then you can get a real idea of the performance of the plant. But simply to look at the energy availability factor over an hour or right now or even over a week is really meaningless, because week by week is a very volatile thing, and you need to filter out the noise and look at it over a period of time.
So when Eskom released that statement saying things are at 70% at some of the power stations, as far as you're concerned, there was nothing really to write home about?
Well, look, first of all, that is cherry picking. They are cherry picking 6 power stations and reporting on that. What they're not reporting on is the worst performing power stations. So yes, well, I think it's true that there has, and you can see in the energy availability factor graphs that I publish weekly, there has been an improvement in the energy availability factor over a particular week, but then the next week it dropped back down again. And it's going to go up and down week by week, as it always does. That's normal volatility of the EAF, but you need to look at the average over a period of time, typically a month, a year, and then you get a meaningful idea as to whether there has been a sustainable improvement in performance or not.
Interesting as always. Chris Yelland, an energy analyst, thanks very much for giving us your time. Really do appreciate it on the AM Report.